Hi, welcome to today's video. So if you don't live in Canada or Southern Ontario or just Ontario in general, you may not know that we recently got several feet of snow. It's been pretty chill, and by chill I mean like cold, obviously. But yeah, it's been like difficult to do anything. Like going to Costco this week, I thought I was gonna die, but I'm alive. Thank goodness. Yeah, so we got a lot of snow in the past couple weeks. It's been rough, honestly. My back hurts from shoveling, my emotions are sad, and my mental health is low. However, we live in Canada, so we kind of need to be prepared for this kind of thing. I typically, when it snows like this, will turn to video games and of course, reading. So today I wanted to share some of my favorite hibernation books that are cozy, wintry, or just like fit the vibes of what I'm going through. And by hibernation, I mean like there was several days where we couldn't get out of our driveway, and there's a lot of people around here that feel the same way. So this is legitimately hibernation, staying in your house for multiple days at a time kind of vibes. I'm going to give some recommendations for these books. They are kind of like winter cozy. Some of them are more winter evil. Some of them are like fantasy. Like we have a few different genres. So I'm going to start us off with classics because I feel like in the winter it's the only time I can actually read a classic because I have the time to actually dedicate to reading the book. I'm not thinking about like, oh, I'm going to be going camping or I'm going to be going outside. I have the time to dedicate to figure out what the hell these girlies are saying. So with that, the first recommendation that I'm going to give is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This one doesn't have it on the front, but this is my copy. Isn't it so cute? Look at that little stamp. But yeah, Little Women kind of takes place in all seasons. It's also kind of spring vibes, which can be good. But the book starts off in the winter, and we see the March sisters having Christmas, and then there's some skating, which I love. And it just generally is like a very homey, cozy book. You do get to kind of leave the home, but I feel like this book is very centered around the home, family, being together, that kind of thing, which I feel like is a really good fit for right now. It's also generally a pretty easy classic to read. It's not from that long ago in the grand scheme of classics, and it's also set in America, so people in North America, I feel like it's a little easier to contextualize. And there's also been some great films made. My personal favorite is 2019 Greta Gerwig, Little Women, but there's also the one with Winona Ryder as well. So lots of options if you're a movie kind of hibernator. Watch Little Women. Read Little Women, watch Little Women, think about Little Women, think about Saoirse Ronan. Think about how Saoirse Ronan is the Meryl Streep of our generation and how she deserves an Oscar and how she's not going to get one. And then we're going to come out of that spiral and we're going to read the book. Okay. So the next books that I'm going to recommend are pretty much anything Agatha Christie. I picked two of my favorites here. Murder on the Orient Express takes place in a winter setting on a train, and they are trapped by snow that falls on the tracks, which is like so accurate to how I'm feeling. It's also a Poirot mystery, which I love. I recently just read Black Coffee, which was great, but this is kind of like the Agatha Christie Poirot book, so if you've never read Agatha Christie, this is a great place to start. Agatha Christie is just very cozy, even if there is murder. And there is always murder, but I just feel so homey when I read her books, and they do kind of give me winter feelings, even if they're not set in winter. And then this one is a compendium from her 1930s releases, but it includes And Then There Were None, which I don't believe is set in the winter, but it is people trapped in a house, killings start happening. It really is also, I think, her best book, and I don't think that's like a debated thing. I think everybody kind of acknowledges this is her best book, but And Then There Were None, if you haven't read it, so good. But just any Agatha Christie is good, even if it's like a full summer one, like the one about golfing. You know what? That's a winter book. And great for hibernating because it's cozy. And then you also have a lot of Agatha Christie movies that you could also watch. Not the new ones, though. Kenneth Branagh is a villain in my life. Sticking in classics, but we're going to modern classics, I have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this book in the winter, and a lot of it is set in the winter. The coldness of the environment is a huge feature. I just also love reading dark academia in the wintertime. I feel like it's a good mix. But yeah, The Secret History is the quintessential dark academia book. It's about our main character going to a very prestigious liberal arts college and studying in a classics program with a bunch of people who are completely disconnected from real life. So, you know, weird stuff ensues. Like, this is probably one of the weirder books that I've read. And a lot of people, it's their favorite book. It wasn't necessarily my favorite book, but I think about it all the time. And the setting that's built in here and the feeling of cold is such a feature that I think it would really fit in with the Hibernation. And you need time to really dig into this book. Like, you can't just like pick it up for 5 minutes and put it down, because the chapters are long. It's a lot of words. Like, it doesn't look that long. Like, I think this copy's only... Okay, this copy is 550 pages. Tell me why it's so skinny. Like, that's insane. And the font is really small. So it is a long book. Perfect for a winter hibernation. Like, don't expect to get through it in a Saturday. But I think this would really fit the vibe. And I would really recommend. The next one, I actually don't have a copy of. I have an ebook copy. If you're looking for some levity, but you still want to have some snowy fantasy vibes, I would recommend the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I love Leigh Bardugo. Shadow and Bone isn't my favorite, but I think it's a really good lead-in to Six of Crows. But Six of Crows doesn't really have that winter vibe. So in Shadow and Bone, a lot of the setting is like really snowy. It's in a fake Russia, so there's a lot of, you know, cold, snow included. It's also a really fast read, so if you're looking to kind of just entertain yourself on a Saturday or a Sunday, I feel like you could get through a book a day if you were really dedicated. And then, you know, if you're locked in the house even longer, you have like 4 more books to read. So like, that's fun. The next fantasy book that I'm going to recommend is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is not a wintry book in essence or setting or anything like that, but I sometimes will return to The Hobbit just to remind myself like what I have to look forward to in the summer. When it was COVID times, I read this a lot to kind of like make myself think about camping and how excited I was to be able to do that again. So I think that this is a good winter option. It's also very cozy compared to Lord of the Rings. If you want like real sadness and cold, Lord of the Rings will give that to you more. But The Hobbit is like more of a quick read. I think it's a good one to just kind of return to if you want some sense of comfort. If you've read it before. If you've never read it, you should. It's the girly. We're going away from escapism and we are going to dive headfirst into snow covering my whole body and smushing me and smothering me. And that is going to start us off with Beartown by Frederick Bachman. This book is, I think, in this series, is the best depiction of snow that I've ever read. So Beartown is set in a small village in Sweden, and they are surrounded by forest. And most of this takes place in the wintertime. It's about a hockey team and how the hockey team impacts the city or the village. Hockey is very much an important part of winter to me personally. But if you're not a hockey fan, you don't need to read hockey or know hockey to read this book. It's just generally one of my favorite books about, I don't know, like, I love a multi-perspective book, and this book does it so well. It's so well written, so concise. That's what I love about Frederick Bachman, is he's very economical with his words, but is able to cut to feelings that are, I think, kind of generally accepted, but never really put into words in the way that he can do it. But yeah, this is, if you want to read about snow and the feeling of claustrophobic and like overpowering by nature, the Beartown series. And it's also kind of heartwarming and kind of devastating, which is very Frederick Bachman. The next book that I recommend is another one that's like, the snow is going to kill me, and that is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. So The Great Alone is about a family that moves to remote Alaska and starts homesteading, and the cold is a huge feature and like a character in the story, I would say. The snow, the possibility of death, all that kind of thing. Alaska in the summer sounds so nice, but Alaska in the winter is like a genuinely a villain, like a murderous villain. So I think she does a great job capturing that. You know, it's kind of like a threat over them all the time. Like, they're enjoying their summer, but they're always working towards making sure that they can sustain themselves through the winter. So if you want to kind of feel the sadness again of winter, The Great Alone is also awesome. And it's Kristen Hanna, so it's really sad. So if you are in the mood to be sad and cold, that's the way to do it. The last book that I'm going to recommend is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. This book isn't really so wintry. So the conceit of this book is that our main character, after the revolution in Russia, is sentenced to live the rest of his life out in a hotel. So it kind of gives that feeling of isolation and being trapped in a place because he literally cannot leave the hotel. So I feel like it kind of invokes that part of a hibernation idea. But it's also set in Russia, so it is kind of cold. There's a lot of wintry vibes. I love this book and I think about it all the time. I would love to reread it. It's one of those ones that rewards you for sticking through. It is a little bit slow and you kind of wonder why it's a book and why you're reading it, which is not a very good recommendation, but it pays off so well at the end of the book. Like, it really rewards perseverance. So if you've picked it up and put it down, try maybe picking it up again when you have a lot of time to really sink into it. But I just love that book, and I think it really captures that idea of aloneness, seclusion that you have in the winter, especially when you are trapped in your house. Crazy. So those are all of the recommendations for books that I have read that I think would be good hibernation books, but I do have some on my TBR, my physical TBR, that I think would be a good fit in this as well. So I haven't read these, but they are books that I would like to read, and potentially if we get more snow, I will read them. So the first book is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabishig Rice. I will be reading this book because it is in my book club. It was actually my pick. It was actually a collaborative pick with me and my friend, but I was the one who put it on there. Moon of the Crusted Snow is kind of a dystopian book. Let me read it. With winter looming, a small northern Anishinaabe community goes dark. Cut off from power and communication with no foreseeable resolution, only very few residents truly realize the community's shortfalls. When unexpected visitors arrive, escaping the crumbling society to the south, tensions rise and allegiances are divided. The harsh winter months pass slowly, and the food supply dwindles as the death toll and panic rise. But the greatest threat to the survival of the reserve might come from within the community itself. So it's really kind of feels very dystopian, very secluded. It's about an indigenous and Anishinaabe reserve community. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this. I think this is our March pick. It will be very snowy in March still. Just figuring out based on how much snow we have now and the forecast. This will still be appropriate in March. But I'm looking forward to reading this guy. And I recommend, if you're looking for something more dystopian, I feel like this could be a good fit. The next book is Anna Karenina. Also, always thought there was an A, but there's no A. It's just Anna Karenina. But I'm going to say Anna Karenina because I'm uncultured, by Leo Tolstoy. The Russians know winter. They know sadness. I have not really read any, of the Russian classics. I haven't read any Dostoevsky or any Tolstoy. So I have bought multiple Dostoevsky and multiple Tolstoys. I just haven't read any. I feel like this is a good place to start. I know Dostoevsky is shorter, so potentially that's where I should start, but I kind of want to read this book and then watch the movie with Keira Knightley because I love Keira Knightley. But honestly, I don't know much about this. It's a romance, it's sad, it's cold. Yeah, maybe I will get to it. I have said that for the past 4 winters, so I think we know I'm not gonna read it, right? Yeah, okay. And the last book that I have on my potential winter TBR is The Holinsky Affair by Anna Pitoniak. This one I got Book of the Month back in November 2023. So I've had this for a long time. I needed to just use my credits so I could stop paying. Love you, Book of the Month, but anyway, this is a Russian spy book. I love a female spy book, all of those, the Rose Code, the Alice Network, Diamond Eye, love those. So I'm hoping this will kind of fit that vibe. Diamond Eye is also kind of a good TBR, a good hibernation book. Just saying. But yeah, I don't know anything about this book. I just got it off Book of the Month, and I would like to read it when I'm kind of needing a little bit of a like a fun read, I guess. I'm sure it's still sad, but it's shorter. I feel like it'll be easier to get through than maybe this book. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so those are my hibernation recommendations. My other recommendations are to stay safe, be prepared, help other people in your neighborhood who are older, like check on people, wear good boots, wear your coat. I have been out and about recently going to the mall too many times, and there's children, they're not wearing coats. Did we not wear coats? But these kids are not wearing coats. It's like minus 20 degrees. I'm like, you don't look cooler. Like, what the hell? This is something, I'm getting old, but honestly, like, I get angry now when I see kids not in coats. And that's how I know I am in my late 20s. But anyways, I hope these recommendations can hopefully bring you some joy in this very cold and a little scary politically time. Reading is always a good respite for me, whether it's I'm feeling low emotionally or like the world is kind of crazy or literally can't see out my windows because of the snow. I've always been able to turn to reading, so I wanted to give some recommendations to everybody else to get them through this time because we will get through it. I know sometimes in January and February it feels like this is forever, but soon it'll be April, my birthday, and then May, and then June, July, August. So just think about that. It's coming. We can make the most of these times, but at the end of the day, if you can't leave your house, you should probably stay in and read. Okay, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, like. If you want to stick around, subscribe. Yeah, I will see you in the next one. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.